This is where I start all of my stock analysis. It's a basically analysis of the debt held by all the corporations in the Bus 12 and Bus 13 portfolio, because I strongly believe if you don't have a company that is making money or will be making money, you probably don't want to own it. What I want to talk about today is Snowflake, and I want to give you a preview of what Snowflake's all about. In the past year, their income was a negative $861 million. So why would I want to be interested in it? Well, let's look a little further. Their current debt is about $296 million. Doesn't look so good so far. The cost of that debt, of servicing that debt, will go up from $16 million to $29 million. Doesn't look so good so far. So it has a negative rating for me on its financial strength. But I want to take you a little bit further. So let's look at something else. This is my cheat sheet. This is where I bring other elements rather than just their debt analysis. I look at their technical analysis, and then I put together a target price based on their current price. I look at where they are relative to their 200-day moving average, and then I show you how far off their 200-day moving average is, and then I show you what I think is very critically important. What's their projected earnings growth or non-growth for 2024, 2025, and what's their revenue growth for 2024 and 2025. So now let's look at Snowflake. Has a bad debt rating in my opinion. It has a sell rating relative to its technology, and I'm out of the stock. But then I come over here, and I see they're just above their 200-day moving average at 158.92, and their 200 moving day average is 158.08. So they're just a little above it. But look at this. This is their projected earnings growth in 2024. Up 179%. That means they're turning profitable, they believe, in 2024, followed in the following year with a profitability growth of 50.91%. Their revenue growth will go up 33% in 24 and 30% in 08. This is a stock, in other words, who's making a turn. And it's in a position because it's down near its 200-day moving average. So it's in a position that maybe we want to buy it. So then let's go look at its chart and see if we can learn something more. This is its chart, and as you can see, it's been up as high as, looks like $375 a share, but it's now down at 159. So it's about half of where it was at its high. What I'm interested in is this gap. This is current trading. As you can see, it's been trading kind of within a range of 184 down to 127. But this gap here, it gapped up on some news on November the 7th. I think it'll come down to fill that gap at about 150.15. So that's why, in fact, I can put it right there. Its high on that gap was 150.28. So that's why I'm putting a price target, because I think it's going to come down. And I don't think the market as a whole knows that its projections are that next year its earnings are going to go up 179%. As I look at its relative strength, you can see it's come up. If we were more diligent, we would have bought it down here when it was at, somewhere around 145. But I do believe that we will have an opportunity to buy in here around 153. So what I'm going to do is put a order in for good until canceled at about 153, 154, and wait and see. Okay, I'm not going to put a big order in. I'm not going to put the order for how much I eventually want to own, because there is a real possibility if things go wrong, if one of our adversaries get aggressive, this sucker could come down to 140, and I want to be in a position to add to my position. I don't think it has much. I don't think it'll come down to the 130 level, but I don't know. What I do know is this is a company that's taking a turn, and it will take its turn in 2024 as it becomes profitable. Why is it going to become profitable? Because it's going to be a major player in the artificial intelligence world. Let's look a little deeper and find out what Snowflake does for a living.
Best of Us Investors presents Kerry Griegmeyer.
Rather than me try to explain to you why Snowflake is something that needs to be in your portfolio and why you need to make sure it stays in your portfolio, I've employed the efforts of Frank Slootman and Jensen Huang. Frank is the CEO of Snowflake, and Jensen is the CEO of Nvidia. They can tell you why you need to own Snowflake and how this is going to change our world. They will explain it to you in such a way that you will have a total new understanding of artificial intelligence and how it's going to change the world. But I need to warn you, it's about a 40-minute video, but it's going to be worth every second of your time.
I was learning COBOL, and COBOL stood for Common Business-Oriented Language, and there was nothing common or business-oriented about it. In the 80s, we had SQL structured data. That helped a lot because data now kind of made sense, rows and columns. But still, it's been hard to have a relationship with data that's natural and productive and insightful, all these things. And all of a sudden, we have this huge step function from where we've been all this time. And it's just an absolute wow, which is why we're all so infatuated with the experiences that we're seeing.
It's a perfect segue to news hot off the presses in the last 2 minutes. Nvidia and Snowflake just announced a massive expansion to their partnership where customers can leverage the Nvidia AI platform on Snowflake for developing custom generative AI models on their own proprietary data. Can you tell us more about this partnership?
Yeah, Snowflake, the sort of things that we do, there's a lot of people trying to kill us. So finding partners that have natural alignment with us and have extraordinary capabilities doesn't come along, every day. And, obviously, NVIDIA is in an extraordinary place, in time and in history in terms of the role they play in the entire history. For us, to be able to bring data and relationships with large enterprises, everybody that you see here in the room, if we combine that, with the computing fabric that we need to enable this technology, as well as the entire stack of services to use it productively, yeah, that's, I don't want to say it's a match made in heaven, but it's about as close as you're going to get. We have full alignment. There's no conflict. And that's a heck of an opportunity for all of us in the room here. So.
We're lovers, not fighters. So, I woke up this morning without a voice. I have no idea where it went. I'm going to find it here somewhere. And so, but the big deal here, Sarah, is that we're going to bring the world's best compute engine to the world's most valuable data. Back in the old days when we first started our career, and Frank mentioned how long he's been working. I've been doing my job a long time. I'm not that old. You're old. And
they think that's funny. Yeah.
Well, they know it's true. And so back in the old days, we used to bring data to the computer. And the reason for that is because there's still little data to move. But these days, for all the reasons that we know well, the data is gigantic, the data is valuable, it has to be secure, it's regulated, governance has to be incredible. And so it's tough to move data around. The data gravity is real. And so it's a lot easier for us to bring our compute engine to Snowflake. And our partnership is about accelerating Snowflake, but it's also about bringing AI to Snowflake. You know that at the core, the big revolution is about the combination of data plus AI algorithms plus compute engine. Our combination, our collaboration here, our partnership, brings all of those three things together. incredibly valuable data, incredibly great AI, incredibly great compute engine. And the thing that we can do together is to help customers use their proprietary data and write AI applications with it. You know, the big breakthrough here, and this is, I'm sure you guys are going to learn a lot about this during this week, is that for the very first time, you could develop a large language model, you stick it in front of your data, and you talk to your data. You talk to your data like you talk to a person. And that data will be augmented would augment the large language model, and you'll ask it all kinds of questions about what and how and when and why. All of the things that you might query the database in the future, you'll talk to the database in the future. The combination of a large language model plus knowledge base equals an AI application. It's as simple as that. A large language model turns any data knowledge base into an application. And just think about all of the amazing applications that people have written. It's always at the core of it some valuable data. Now you have a query engine, universal query engine in front of it that's super intelligent, and you can get it to, of course, respond to you, but you can also connect it to an agent, as you know. And this is the breakthrough of LangChain plus vector databases plus data from large language models. Groundbreaking stuff is happening everywhere. Now everybody's going to do it. And Frank and I are going to help everybody do that.
Yeah, we've seen, in our investing, a huge explosion of chatbots, search, summarization. And Frank, you and I were talking a few weeks ago about how much the interface to business data can change and what a big opportunity that is for customers. Is that something you expect to show up in the Snowflake product or applications that people build themselves?
Well, we expect to be, visiting with our customers at some point, relatively soon, I would say, and say, look, we're going to push a boundary in terms of what kind of questions, you'll be able to ask of your data. I mean, just enacting natural language, I think it's amazing, and I love it, right? Because many more people can be productive and all this kind of stuff. But asking really hard questions of your business is a whole, different matter. And I hope, we're all right here, that the intelligence is in the data and the models are able to extract the reasoning and intelligence from that data, and that will lead to those, incredibly insightful, predictive relationships with data. But if not, we're going to sort of unpack and break it down and understand it so we can keep pushing those boundaries. People ask very, very hard questions of their data. Sometimes they have to, launch whole teams for weeks on end to come back with answers that we even have difficulty trusting.
Frank, it's like this. There are tons of customers in the audience who have large customer support organizations.
Yeah.
And all that data is going into Snowflake. Could you imagine if you had hundreds of your customer support agents sitting in front of you and you just asked them a whole bunch of questions? That's the future. Yeah. You're going to put a large language model in front of that customer service database, and you're going to talk to it.
Yep.
You're going to ask, what are the most frequent things that are happening to our customers that we could improve on? What are the things that they seem to find really delightful about our products? You could ask those questions in normal human language, and it will talk back to you. That's the miracle. You're going to turn customer service data into a customer service application. That's the incredible opportunity ahead.
A lot of the CEOs of large telcos and banks, they're looking to redefine the economics of their businesses, which is really something they have not been able to do. And they're thinking, that opportunity is coming. Large call centers, that's the examples you just used, right? Sales organizations that feel incredibly unwieldy and expensive, to them. So redefining cost structures, people will get heady just thinking about the possibility and opportunity. Yeah. But we're going to be part of this journey, and it's a good time to be alive in this business.
One of the ways that we, as investors think about this transition is going from software 1.0, which is, very deterministic code written function by engineers, to software 2.0, which is, you're optimizing a neural network with carefully collected, labeled training data. And I think the opportunity that you guys are really helping people leverage is what I think of as software 3.0, which is we are working with this set of foundation models that are incredibly capable on their own, but they still need to work with enterprise data and custom data sets. It's just much cheaper to go develop those applications against them, right? You can think of them as the world's best query engine on top of your most important data. So I think that's like a really attractive opportunity in how much the cost comes down for customers.
Yeah.
So actually, this raises an interesting question for people who are paying deep attention to this area. One question is, foundation models are very general. Can they just do everything? Like, why do we need custom models and enterprise data anyway?
Well, I mean, there's a school of thought in there. It's like maybe, but it will be incredibly expensive, right? So we have very broad general models that can do poetry and process the Great Gatsby and summarize it and all these and math problems broken down. Hell, I wish I'd had that as a kid, right? But in business, we don't need that, right? We're looking for a co-pilot that has extraordinary insight in a very narrow set of data, but a very complex set of data. I mean, you need to understand business models and business dynamics. Now, that is computationally not as expensive because you just don't need to be trained on a million things. You need to be trained on, very few, very, very deep subject matter. Yeah.
So if we think of these models as having like all the general knowledge of the internet and some set of reasoning capabilities, what's an example of what an enterprise wants from these AI applications that is not in the general knowledge of the internet?
Yeah, well, I'll give you an example. One of my, I'm on the board of Instacart, and one of the topics, a great customer of ours as well, and one of the topics that comes up in businesses like DoorDash and all the others is, they drive top line with huge amount of marketing expense, and it's very, very hard to do. And then they onboard a customer, and then the customer places an order, and then the customer either doesn't come back or he comes back 90 days later. It's very erratic, and they call that churn. Churn is the most incredibly complex problem to analyze because you may not come back for one reason. I may not come back for another reason, right? So people want to find answers to these questions. It is in the data. It is, right? But try to reason your way, to that.
Right.
That's an example that is worth an enormous amount of money,
Right. And the answer to, why is this Instacart customer churning is not in the general knowledge of the internet.
No.
It's somewhere in the Instacart data, we hope.
Yes, it is. Yeah. And we see other software companies in product marketing and so on, they try to, understand behaviors to the point where they can then, because if you understand the problem, you can do something about it and be productive in changing the churn ratios. If you're wrong, everything you're doing is ineffective, and that is literally what's going on.
Jensen, part of the partnership is you guys bringing your pre-trained foundation models and expertise to the Snowflake platform, right? So how do you think about how those models should interact with enterprise data?
First of all, I have never met an employee that was too smart. It embarrassed me how smart they were. I've never hired a new college grad. I just go, too smart. There's a lot of NVIDIA teammates out here, guys.
So
we can make the pre-trained models as smart as we can, and then we still have to onboard them. We still have to fine-tune them. We still have to, we have to still specialize them into our particular craft. And so our strategy and our offering is state-of-the-art pre-trained models of a variety of sizes. And sometimes you need to create a very large pre-trained model so that it can generate prompts so that you can teach the smaller models, which generates prompts to teach even smaller models. And the smaller models could run almost anything, and maybe the latency is really, really low. However, it doesn't generalize as well. It's, zero-shot capability is probably a lot more limited. And so you might have several different types of different sizes of models. But in every single case, you have to do supervised fine-tuning, you have to do reinforcement learning, human feedback, so that you could keep it aligned to your goals and principles. And you need to guardrail it, you need to augment it with vector databases and things like that. And so all of that comes together in a platform. And we have the skills and the knowledge and the basic platform to help them create their own AI. and then connect it to the incredible data that Frank has in Snowflake. Now, ultimately, what every enterprise customer will do is not ultimate. Their goal shouldn't be to think about how do I build a large language model. Their goal should be how do I build an AI application that solves this particular problem. And that application might require 17 questions and previous prompts that it finally came to the right answer. And then you might say, now I would like to take these, I would like you to write me a program, and it could be a SQL program, it could be a Python program, so that I could do this automatically in the future. And so you still have to guide this AI through, as you know, so that it could ultimately give you the right answer, but then after that you can create an application that could run as an agent 24/7, looking for circumstances like this and revealing it to you in advance. And so our job is to help customers build these AI applications that are guardrailed and specific and customized to them. And then lastly, we're all going to be intelligence manufacturers. In the future, we'll hire employees, of course, but we're going to create a whole bunch of agents, and these agents could be created with LangChain or something like that connects models and knowledge bases and other APIs, and you deploy in the cloud and connect it to all the Snowflake data, and you'll operate these AIs at scale. And you'll continuously refine these AIs. And so every one of us are going to be manufacturing AIs, and we're going to be running AI factories. We're going to put that infrastructure in Snowflake, and so customers could work with their data there, train and develop their models there, and then operate their AIs there. And so Snowflake will be your data repository and your bank. And Frank is sitting on a gold mine of data, as you guys know, your gold mine of data. And Snowflake is going to help you turn that gold mine of data into incredible intelligence. And all of you will be running AI factories, all of it in Snowflake. That's the goal.
Yeah.
There's a lot of gold mines out there.
I actually saw the Nvidia Nemo stack, running inside of Snowflake on the partner pavilion floor at 3 o'clock this afternoon. So this is not just pie in the sky. I mean, this is literally happening as we sit here. So that's what's so exciting. I mean, the deployability of these services is quite high.
Yeah. One of the things that resonates for me about this is I was just talking to some of the technical team that was working on this, and I said, where did the idea come from? Came from these two leaders, but also came from seeing, large Snowflake customers struggle to get data out to GPU computing, to do machine learning, and then get it back into Snowflake. And seeing that you have the most sophisticated customers already going down that path and just making it possible to consolidate in one place with one stack that's obvious to operate on seems like a huge win.
You should be able to run on NVIDIA everywhere and anywhere. Like I said, we're lovers. And so if you need NVIDIA GPU computing, we'll come find you. and all of you are in Snowflake, so we found you.
So I do have one important question on this. If we pay attention to these companies that are training this generation of LLMs, it is very expensive to do so on huge numbers of GPUs. What should customers expect about GPU computing spend?
It's not free.
That was the wrong answer.
Yeah, I know. And by the way, everybody in this room is running consumption models. It's very different from a capacity model. You have to really master the model. You have to have levels of discipline around it. It's hard to come to terms with it. So, when you're running workloads, queries, or AI factories, whatever you want to call it, there's a cost. So, in other words, it's not just fun and games. You can ask the question, what are we having for dinner tonight? But is that a question worth asking just because it generates an interesting answer, right? So there's the consumption model is already an enormous evolution in the world of software. This is going to take that to another level. I mean, NVIDIA are wonderful products, but they're not free. Last time I checked.
I think Frank better let me answer this one. You're going to find a much more sympathetic CEO. So first of all,
He's announcing they're all free, actually.
first of all,
There's a coupon coming.
first of all, as you know, we have 5 AI factories at Nvidia, and 4 of them are in the world's top 500 supercomputers, and another one is coming online as we speak. We use those supercomputers to do pre-trained models. And so when you use our NeMo AI Foundation service inside Snowflake, the first thing you're going to get is a state-of-the-art pre-trained model that tens of millions of dollars of expense has already gone into it, not to mention all the R&D that went into it. And so it's pre-trained. And it's like a new college grad pre-trained, super smart. And
Not so smart that you're scared.
not so smart, well, not so smart as me, but I'm just smart, super smart. And so they're pre-trained. And then there's a whole bunch of other models around it, and those models for fine-tuning, for human feedback, reinforcement learning, human feedback, for augmentation, all of those models are a lot more cost-effective to train. And so now you've adapted that pre-trained model to your functionality, to your guardrails, to be able to optimize for the type of skills or functionality you would like it to have, and augment it with your data. And so that is going to be a lot more cost effective. And the important thing is here, what I hope, and I believe this will happen, is that you'll be able to develop AI applications connected to your data at Snowflake in matter of days, not months. You should be able to build AI applications quickly in the future. And the reason for that is because we're seeing it happening in real time right now as we speak. Isn't that right? Communities are, almost enthusiasts and developers are creating all kinds of applications with LangChain and Pinecone and whatever data that they have. Chat PDF is pretty terrific. You load a bunch of PDFs into it, you talk to your PDF. And instead of reading a research paper, this morning I was asking this chat PDF about this particular piece of research, which is a lot more interesting having a conversation about it than having to read the whole thing. And it happens to be like 49 pages. And so being able to ask a few questions about it is really a lot more productive. Yeah. You're going to be able to do this almost everywhere.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's encouraging, if you just think about software 2.0 versus software 3.0, is one way to think about the foundation models is, 95% of the training cost has been borne already by somebody else.
That's right.
Right? As early stage investors,
Did you hear that? That's
right. Thank you, Jensen and others.
Incredible.
Frank, Jensen,
incredible
delivering
discount.
These. Yeah.
Incredible
yeah, it's
discount.
a 95% discount.
95% off.
Yeah. No.
Can't imagine a better
That's
deal.
Slightly different than what I said, but but I think it's a real dynamic, right? Because we're investors in companies like Seek in the analytics automation space, Harvey in the legal space, where these are very young companies, but they're applications that have gone to real business value in 6 months or less.
Yeah.
And part of it is because they're starting with these pre-trained models, and I imagine that's a massive opportunity for the enterprise.
Yeah. Every single company will have hundreds, if not thousands, of AI applications, and you're just connected to all kinds of data in your company. Yeah. So all of us have to get good at building these things.
One of the questions I've been hearing from large enterprise practitioners is, we have to go invest in this AI thing. Do we need a new stack? Like, how should we think about this in relation to our existing data stack? How do you think about that?
I think it's evolving. Actually, something that we're going to talk about tomorrow is to sort of show all the models that are becoming possible. Some are already possible and are already being used or in production, and then they're getting progressively tighter, more secure, more governed, and all of that. So we don't have a real clear view of this is the reference architecture that everybody's going to use. Some people are going to have some set of central services. Microsoft has its, OpenAI, version running in Azure, and a lot of their customers, are interacting. It's Azure to Azure. It's not exactly, where we want it to be. But we're not clear on what model is going to be sort of the dominant, form that this is going to take, which is why we will be traversing many paths, because I think the market is going to sort itself on what is the trade-off between how hard is it and how easy is it to use and what does it cost and all these kinds of things. So we're speculating a little bit. We see people rigging things up like that right now and asking cute little questions. Why is my portfolio down today? All this kind of stuff. That's all fine, right? But that's the beginning. That's not going to be the end state.
In terms of the sort of production deployable at scale application in the
because
future.
the whole security side of the house is going to weigh in, and enterprises like, are we violating any copyrights here when we use this kind of a model? I mean, all these questions. We're very enthralled right now with the technology, and for good reason. But there's going to be a level of reality that's going to start to settle in as well.
Well, Sarah, you're at the core of your question, and I agree with everything that Frank said. But you know that we're living through right now the first fundamental computing platform change in 60 years. If you just read the press release of the IBM System 360, you will hear about central processing units, I/O subsystems, DMA controllers, virtual memory, multitasking, scalable computing, forward and backwards compatibility. You're going to hear about all those things literally written in 1964. And those words have carried us with CPU scaling, right, for 60 years. But that has run its course. We can't scale CPUs anymore. And that is now well understood. At exactly the same time that all of a sudden software is different. The way that software is written, the way that software is operated, and what software can do is profoundly different than it was before. Isn't that right? You call it software 2.0, and now we're talking about software 3.0. The fact of the matter is, computing has fundamentally changed. And so we're seeing two fundamental dynamics happening at the same time. That's the reason why things are shaken up so hard. On the one hand, you can't just keep on buying CPUs. You know that. And the reason for that is because if you bought a whole bunch more CPUs next year, your computing throughput would be no more than if you didn't touch it at all, because it's the end of CPU scaling. You would spend a whole bunch more money, you wouldn't get a lot more throughput. And so the answer is you have to go accelerate it. The Turing Award winners spoke about acceleration. NVIDIA has pioneered acceleration. And so accelerated computing is now here. The second part of it, of course, is the whole operating system on top of that computer is profoundly different. We have a layer called NVIDIA AI Enterprise. NVIDIA AI Enterprise, data processing, training, inference, deployment, that entire end-to-end is now integrated into, or in the path of being integrated into Snowflake, so that the compute engine underneath, from the beginning of data processing all the way to the large language models, are now going to be completely accelerated. We're going to turbocharge the living daylights out of Snowflake. That's our mission. And you'll be able to do more, and you'll be able to do more with less. And so it's very, very evident. If you go to any of the clouds, you will see that NVIDIA GPUs are the most expensive compute instances. But if you put a workload on it, you will find that we do it so fast, it's as if you got a 90% discount. You said 90% earlier is in fact 10 to 1. And so what's interesting is that we're the most expensive instance, but we're the most cost-effective TCO. So if your job is to run workloads, then the best way to do it is acceleration. An example workload is training large language models. An example workload is fine-tuning large language models. If you want to do that, absolutely do not accelerate it. Please do accelerate it. So accelerate every workload you can, and that's the reinvention of the whole stack. The processor is different, the operating system is different, the large language model is different, and now the way you write AI applications is different. Isn't that right? Software 3.0. You don't have to write it at all. AI applications. We're all going to write applications. We're all going to connect our prompts and our context and our few Python commands, right? We're going to connect it to a large language model. We're going to connect it to our own database or the corporate database, and we'll develop our own application. Everybody's going to be an application developer.
But the constant is that it's still your data, and you still need to fine-tune it.
Yeah. I think, with in the early days of Snowflake, we really, because it's a cloud computing fabric, faster is cheaper, and faster has always been more expensive, and all of a sudden faster is cheaper, right? It's an inverted mentality. So there's sometimes people want to under-provision thinking it's cheaper, ends up being more expensive, right? So it is counterintuitive. The other thing you mentioned in terms of compute paradigms, I mean, the idea of the data, the work going to the data instead of the data going to the work. We are completely retracing ourselves, and for 60 years, pick a number, we've been pushing the data to the work, and it's led to massive siloing and segmentation. That's going to be really difficult if you want to have AI factories, right?
That's right.
So we have to bring that work to the data, and we're doing that now together, and I think we're doing it the right way. So
Yeah, that's right.
yeah.
Maybe just as advice for the audience about what you're seeing from your own customers or your predictions, where do you expect that customers will get the most value from AI most quickly?
Well, most quickly, it's not the most value, but the most quickly.
Okay, these two separate.
Yeah, the two separate things.
Yeah.
I mean, most quickly is that you're going to see augmented query all over the place, because that's just relatively easy to add. You don't even have to be literate to get value out of data now, which is quite an amazing thing. So the ultimate democratization of your relationship and interaction. So that's all great, right? It's like search on steroids, right? And chat on steroids.
You think that's more people interacting with the data you already have?
Yeah, but it's like you add these cute little questions to your dashboards. I mean, dashboards, they are relatively static, and the data is what it is. But then I can bring these questions to that data, and that's low-hanging fruit. And then people are going to go to the board meeting and say, look at what we've got. And everybody will be applauding, and this is really exciting. But that'll be like phase one, and then it really starts. Once we sort of get over the low-hanging fruit, we start really focusing on much harder type questions. And I'm talking about proprietary enterprise data, a combination of structured, unstructured, all of it, right? How do we mobilize that?
What's an example of a hard question in phase two in whatever industry you think?
Well, I mentioned the problem of churn in consumer industries. The problems that we have in supply chain management, because when supply chains can be extraordinarily complex, and if there is an event, then how do we reconfigure, rejigger a supply chain? They run these extremely intense models. You have to ask these questions: what do I do now, and that this event does happen? And by the way, supply chains are comprised of many, many different entities. It's not a single enterprise, right? So, by the way, this is a problem that has never been solved in the history of computing. Supply chain management has never been platform. It's pretty much an email, spreadsheet, type of a business, with small exceptions here and there. So it's exciting, collapsing these enormous call center investments that we have. Pricing optimizations in the world of retail, right? Like I said, it's a redefinition of business models that people are going to see. I mean, it's exciting, but that's the real potential that I think CEOs of large institutions are after.
Jensen, where do you see the most impact coming in the next 5 years across the enterprise?
I would ask myself, number one, what is my single most valuable database? And the second thing I would ask myself is, if I had a super, super, super smart person in front of it, and everything goes through that super intelligence, what would I...
Scary smart person.
Scary, scary smart person. What would I ask that person? And it is...
Can I guess? Is it the customer database?
Customer database, in the case, because Frank has a lot of customers. I don't have that many customers. But
or the asset database if you're manufacturing supply chain.
Yeah, so my supply chain is super complicated. Mm-hmm. And my design database is super complicated. It's impossible for NVIDIA to build our GPUs without AI anymore, because none of our engineers can go through the number of iterations and exploration that AIs could do for us. And so when we were coming up with AI, our first application was ourselves. And so Hopper couldn't have been designed without AI, and our next generation cannot be designed without AI. None of our optimizing compilers could be done without AI. Just optimizing the graph is so complicated because there's so many targets, so many GPUs, so many different neural network models, so many different constraints that you're optimizing for. No human could possibly compile for that, optimize for that. And so we have AI just run continuously looking for the best optimal solutions. Yeah. And so we apply our AIs to our own data. We would do that, of course. Our bugs database is a perfect place because we have so much code. We've got to go and figure out where, how to as quickly as possible enable our engineers. We have, we're a full stack company. If you look at the amount of code that goes through NVIDIA AI, it's several hundred packages of software that comes together so that an application can sit up here, be accelerated by a factor of 50 on top of a GPU, and then scale across a full data center. That piece of software called NVIDIA AI Enterprise is insanely complicated. We need in the future, and these are some of the things that we're working on now, is how do we use an AI to go figure out how to security patch it, how to best maintain it so that we can keep compatibility, so that we don't have to disturb the entire upper layer in the meantime, support backwards compatibility, maybe support a particular security hole, et cetera, et cetera.
And these are questions that AI is capable of answering for you
today. That's right, exactly.
Yeah.
We can use a large language model to go answer those questions.
Yeah.
And then find the answer for us or reveal the exposure to us, and then the engineer will be able to go in and fix it.
Yeah.
Or recommend a fix, and then we can be the human in the loop to go acknowledge whether this is a good fix or there's a better fix.
Yeah. When we talk to practitioners, we hear understand our data better across the organization. So that's kind of phase one that you talked about, like how can we just ask more questions and let more people ask those questions. We hear change the margin structure of our business, right? And then expand the scope of what we are doing for our customers. I think that what you're talking about with NVIDIA, actually using it within engineering across problems that are too complex for humans to handle today, I think that's actually new, but it makes sense to be on the
It
fringe.
makes a lot of sense because you have to traverse across so many layers. No person could see all those layers, and so wherever we can, when the data is so valuable, so complex, and so I've just asked myself, what's my most valuable data?
We have great customers in, for example, auto loans, every time they price a loan, the amount of computation and data that gets involved in pricing that loan. I mean, you're a market of one to them, right? And the 1 basis point here or there at the scale that they operate, becomes real money, and it's only computationally understandable. You look at auto insurance, right? They use telemetry data from the devices that are in your car to price risk, because that's the data that determines, whether you're going to have claims or not. In other words, that business can't be run without telemetry data anymore, because the competition drives the prices down, but you need to drive profits up at the same time. So you need to really, really understand the cost of the risks you're taking. So we can already not live with data in many, many businesses that we're in. Impossible.
I can't let you guys get away without asking at least like one more challenging question here. So, we have a lot of portfolio companies. They need, they have ML and AI workloads. There's also a series of cloud providers out there. Like, why Snowflake and Nvidia for their ML workloads?
What was the question? Hang on a second. Yours is water. Mine's, I think, cocktail.
You want this one too?
No, yours is water. I think mine's not.
Yeah.
I was just saying. I'm the guest, so Frank was...
I also wanted a cocktail, he told me.
What did you say? What was the last part?
The question is, there's a bunch of cloud providers out there who are vying for your ML or your AI workload business. Like, why NVIDIA and Snowflake?
Well, we're the best.
It's a good answer, yes.
and we're gonna come to a theater near you and prove it, of course, and proof is in the pudding. We always aim for outcomes, your outcomes, not ours, yours, right? And that we're going to leave it all in the field. I mean, this is. I find this the most interesting time to be alive, in this business, because the ability to aim for superlative outcomes is there now. That for a long time, we talk about data warehousing. It used to be begging for a 2:30 a.m. time slot 3 months from now. That was the state of the business, and look at where we are now. It's just unbelievable, right? The types of problems that we're talking about now. So it's
Shipping an intelligent application in days and weeks.
yeah. I think not everybody realizes how much intelligence is embedded in the data that they look at every day, how much there is to be unlocked, in insight and impact. So that's where we all going to come in and make that happen.
Sarah, there's a reason that everybody is in Snowflake. There's a reason for that. Because this is the safest, best place to store your data, to process your data. And so for everybody who's in Snowflake, we are your best answer. And for the very first time, if you data warehouse, we're going to connect an AI factory next to it. And you're going to be producing intelligence, the most valuable commodity the world's ever produced. You are sitting on a gold mine of natural resources, your company's data, proprietary data. We're now going to connect it to an AI engine. And you're going to, on the other end of that, is just intelligence spewing out every single day. Unbelievable amounts of intelligence coming out the other end, even while you sleep. This is the best thing ever. So if you're a Snowflake customer, as many are, Frank and I are going to help you turn your data into intelligence.
That's a great way to summarize. I can't improve on that.
It was a great conversation, guys. Welcome to Snowflake Summit. Congratulations on your partnership. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you. Let's do it. Yeah.
Thank you. Great job. Oh, one more thing. Jensen, we're not going to let you go home empty-handed. I mean, this is one of the most valuable
Wow.
It's Snowflake Nvidia branded. Look at this.
Wow. This is awesome. Thank you.
Awesome.
Let it go, everybody.
Thank you.
For your office.
Okay.
You can get on it. You have to stand on it, actually.
I don't want to ruin it. Yeah.